Thank you, Bijan. Hi, everybody. I hope this will be a fun exercise today. With product ideation, what me and my team worked on during the cohort that just finished. And it's the ideation exercise. So I want to keep it just a little bit informal. If while I'm presenting something, I'll stop for questions. But if something really pops up as ideas, you feel free to chime in. So I want to so you can participate also a little bit. I'll start right now. Just please excuse me if I have to be interrupted by some coughs or a little nasal voice. I'm actually just recovering from COVID, which does still happen, unfortunately. So what can I say? We can get started. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, and for people on LinkedIn, feel free to post your questions on our LinkedIn event page, and I'll be reading the questions to Subbudh in case we have any questions.
And so I trust everyone can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the product ideation for new AI products. And our product idea, we came up with the name junkremoval.ai to clean up your digital storage. I'm Subuddh Parekh, many years experienced product manager. We'll go over the team at the end. A little bit of help from Anuj Vadva and Amrita Nimbalkar. Both of them unfortunately couldn't make it today, so I'll be the one doing the presentation. So 1 second, there we go. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so the ask that's at the top of the course was to come up with an ML-based product idea, write a PRD for it, make a pitch deck to seek funding for it. I was kind of just deliberately left this very open because this is very much a green screen thing. Like, well, this is just wide open. What kind of problems do we want to solve? So our approach was to look at problems we know about, we experience ourselves. That's, for me, always a good way to start. Will ML help? Is there a clear technical solution? Or is it just is there something we can actually start building? Is it generalizable, scalable? Does it offer sufficient value to justify the effort to actually build this, do the machine learning, do all the work that needs to be done? So those were the questions we started with. And we had 3 ideas a group came up with that we thought were potential to things we could explore. One is in the travel industry, a personalized travel itinerary curator. For food delivery, a tool for apps like Uber Eats to distinguish legitimate complaints about food delivered from frivolous ones. And the last one for content management, a tool for identifying and deleting items no longer useful in your digital storage, whether online or offline. So these were the 3 ideas we were looking at. So you just take a look at each one, part of our ideation process. The travel itinerary curator. So we wanted to offer a customized tour itinerary based on user inputs and past preferences. So some of the pros of this idea itself is that it's a very large addressable market for travelers all over the world. The current user journey is somewhat scattered. I mean, if you ever planned a trip, you find yourself going to many different websites, maybe many different forums, especially if you're traveling international, to get yourself all set up with the right hotels, the right places to visit, the right contacts, even organizing the taxi to pick you up at the airport. Just depends on where you're going, how remote the place may be. So there could be definitely a need for something that brings it all together. The cons is there's actually very, very crowded field. There's a lot of players in the travel right now who have many, many years of prior experience. They also have many years of data that they can work on versus a new player who will not have much access to much of any prior data. There's no clear new algorithms. I mean, this is a very vaguely stated problem. Recommendation systems are notoriously difficult to build. There's been so many competitions, like for example, Netflix has had and trying to get the right next film presented to the user. And it's really unclear how to get access to personalized training data so we can offer you something customized. So these were the pros and cons. So this is not the best thing we wanted to work on right now. The full delivery complaint sorter offer a way to sort out food delivery complaints to identify frivolous complaints. The pros, no such system in place as far as we know. It could save food apps millions because right now, if I make a complaint on, like, say, Uber Eats, I just get a refund. I mean, it doesn't look like anybody's actually doing any kind of investigation at all. So this could save the food apps a lot of money, but this might actually be a very good reason why the food apps aren't investigating these complaints. They would rather lose some money than alienate their customers and nitpick about the complaint that the customer made. And there's probably some threshold that they're monitoring, like a certain fraud threshold. Like, okay, if the complaints goes higher than so much amount, either individually or total, we'll take action. So even though the app could save millions, the trade-off the food apps might have already made the trade-off that we don't want to use such an app, or we don't want to use such intelligence. And otherwise, the access to the data also requires the cooperation of the food app, or you have to launch your own new food delivery app to get the data that you can use to train to figure out which complaints are serious and which complaints are frivolous. So this too was something that seemed a little out of reach, not something we could get busy working on right away. And so we came to third idea was the content destroyer, and offer a way to delete the digital store that is no longer of value, whether that store is on your store, it's on offline, maybe just on your phone, on your laptop, or on the cloud. And the pros is a large addressable market. You can get easy access to data just through APIs, or just anything that's offline. You can provide access to especially through your phone. The models already exist that can be adapted for the kind of work that needs to be done. And the cons are that the cloud providers might get uppity about anybody doing this kind of something like this with their storage. And there could be a resistance of customers to actually delete things, which is quite very certainly something that would have to be considered. But this looked like the easiest thing the most useful adding value that could actually be worked on right away. So this is the approach that we settled on after our green screen exploration. So any questions so far? Okay, if there's no questions, I'll keep going. Okay, so just to recap my problem, right? Just as this was how we came up with the idea itself. That there's so much junk in this world, in my world. I can no longer I can no longer scroll my camera roll on my phone. There's too many photos and my eyes hurt. After one or two screens, I have to stop. So I can't go back many days unless I have to do a search, and the search isn't very, very good. I hit my cloud storage limit very regularly. I'm always on the edge, and then I always have to go in every now and then and just delete enough to stay below the threshold. Otherwise, I have to pay for the next year. I have too many photos and emails. I can't sort through them. Email is now completely out of control, my Gmail. There's like 2,000 unread emails. I am paying Google in perpetuity now for my cloud storage. For the rest of my life, every month, I'm going to be giving them a little bit of money. And it's entirely possible that, if you have the same problem too, not only for the rest of your life, your kids, your heirs may have to keep giving Google money. What's going to happen when you pass? You have all this cloud storage. It's too precious to throw away, maybe. So you're going to have to just keep paying out money for this. And I'm not really that happy about that. And it's only going to get worse because I just keep adding more. So at some point, I'm not going to be able to meet my threshold. And I'm going to just have to pay for the next year of storage. And it's just a money sink, money leaving my system. And just to give you an example of the kind of stuff that's being right now in my digital storage that doesn't really do much of anything. I took these pictures 3 years ago. This was, I think, Point Lobos and Half Moon Bay. Looked like really fun photos, footprints in the sand, just me on the beach, my shadow on the sand. But they're all the same, which is how typically we take. Also, often we take photos. We take one photo, we take many more of the same, just because we want to get find the right one that we're going to share. And I never looked at these thereafter. From 3 years, this stuff is sitting in my storage, and I have no use for it. I don't think I'll ever want to look at it again. It's just digital junk. So having established my own problem, it's a good idea then to validate, is this a general problem? Do others have this problem too? So of course, within my group, people were nodding their heads. Anuj and Amrita were nodding their heads. Yes, we do have this issue ourselves. And just a survey of what's happening in the world today is this: every day about 5 billion photos are taken with smartphones. 5 billion. And that's a lot of photos, and most of them will never be looked at thereafter. On average, we check our phones 150 times a day, which is, if you think about it, pretty crazy. And that's actually like really stressful, like to give that much partial attention to your phone, to something all the time, all day long. All content generation sites have a vested interest in keeping us addicted to their content, to just keep coming back for more and more. And all cloud storage sites have a vested interest in having us store more and more content. It doesn't matter how good the content is. You just keep adding more and more, because then you'll just pay more for it. That's their business model. And related to that, we also generate tons of e-waste, like all of the electronics, when they're no longer useful, whether they be storage systems or even our phones, everything, just adds to our carbon footprint, the environmental damage that we're doing. So this is definitely a general problem that seems to be really worth tackling. So where do we start? I need to get my engineers working. At the very least, we have three possible areas. We have email, photos, documents. How can I get people to work right away, my team? So cleaning up the camera roll itself is the lowest hanging fruit on the phone, the camera roll on the phone. I don't need to interact with the cloud providers as yet. Don't need to go to the Google Photos API or the Amazon Photos or Apple's cloud or any of that. And this is the fastest route to the proof of concept and getting vital user feedback. That are they actually appreciating what we have built? And is this something actually useful for them? So this seems like the fastest way to get that POC out the door. Do some kind of initial testing with that very early MVP, and see whether this is an idea worth giving more energy, time, and money to. Any questions so far? All right, let's keep going.
Just quickly checking to see if there are any questions on LinkedIn. I think, give me one second. Yeah, I think we're good. We can continue.
Okay, so now we've narrowed down the ask to something that's very, very tangible. Sort the photos on the phone to identify those that are no longer useful. And how? Like, this is a loaded question. What does useful mean? And how are we going to do this sorting? So one approach is to look for clusters of very similar photos taken at the same time, like the example I showed you. If I took 10 photos of the same thing, at least 8 or 9 of them are not going to be very useful. Look for orphans, and by orphans I mean one-off photos that seem to be aren't shared thereafter and that are not useful. It's a very simple example. I was cat sitting for a friend, and I needed to send them a picture of the cat food, because you were using the right cat food that was sitting on the counter. So I took the picture, sent it to them. They said, yes, you should use this. And that picture thereafter is sitting on my storage, but I have no use for it at all. It is a kind of like an orphan. It was not used beyond that one share. It was not used for anything. And there may be many more pictures, some of which never even had that one share. That are just shots I took for one particular moment I needed, but that weren't really useful for me. So really, I would love to be able to even identify those and clean those out. Look for badly taken photos, out of focus, not good lighting, stuff like that, which we take the photos and we don't actually delete them at the time we take them. How many of us are careful enough after we took a photo with our phone to say, oh, I don't like this, let me hit delete? We don't, because we just think, we are not thinking about that at the moment. Then it goes into a photo camera roll, goes down the scroll, and we've totally forgotten about it. Look for photos that don't have any interesting objects in them. So anything that looks like it's like a very much a bland picture of a landscape or something that after that isn't going to really be memorable in the future. And then, of course, we want to allow users to provide feedback on photos selected and learn from that feedback. We definitely need some kind of a loop, a reinforcement learning loop. So this is the ask. So should we create a rules-based solution or an ML solution? Let's look at the different components of the ask and see what will work for them. So clustering and object detection are very high. They are highly complex problems. They need to be adaptable because the photos are always going to be changing. The objects might be changing. We know that pre-trained models actually exist for these problems. Transparency and accountability is important, but not that critical. It's and we will see why that there is a further step after we have identified the photos that aren't useful to be deleted, which will allow the user to provide feedback on whether they want to actually delete that photo or not. And there's some tolerance for false positives and false negatives. So this clearly requires an ML solution. There's no rules we can add to say, okay, there are no rules that we can use for something for clustering and object detection. For incorporating user feedback, this definitely has lower complexity. The feedback does tend to change slowly over time. Maybe the user gives some feedback and may never give further feedback thereafter or just once in a while. There really is no training data for something like this. Transparency and accountability are absolutely vital. If a user gives feedback, don't delete such photos, and we actually go delete them, they're going to lose trust in the app completely. So we have very low tolerance for errors. So this clearly needs some kind of clear set of rules, a good user experience for the user interface for them to specify the rules and allow us to code them into the system. So our system is going to require both ML and rules that we build. We're going to have a combination. And what are the criteria that we need for the model that we're going to choose? Accuracy, we need very high precision to start, at least greater than 0.98 something, and an acceptable level of recall. And I can, why this is the case, why we are making this kind of choice? Firstly, if it's a new app, the last thing I want is to, if I've sorted out the photos and told you, look, this is your junk, this is your digital junk. I go in there and I find a photo that's really important. I'm going to freak out if it's a new app. And these guys don't know what they're doing. I'm going to delete the app right away. They're going to delete important photos. So my precision needs to be very, very high. I can't afford to have the wrong photo be marked as ready for deletion. Once the user gets trust in me, they've seen the value of what I'm bringing, then I can bring the precision down, because then they're already used to the system. They know, okay, a few photos snuck in, no problem. I can restore them to the proper folder. And the recall needs to be sufficiently high enough so that we get enough photos. And given the high volume of photos that we're talking about, like a 70% recall should be pretty decent, just so that we have enough there in our junk folder that we have created that allows the user to see that there is value in this product. So that's how we've arrived at these numbers, the trade-offs we have made. And this is the starting point. The cost will depend on the amount of funding, time, and effort to transfer learn. And just some research suggests that between 50,000 to 100,000 to successfully transfer learn a model. Really depends on which model you're using, where you're going to get the engineers from, and how long it's going to take. Just to give some perspective, of course, you cannot ground train any of this from the start. ChatGPT has cost, the latest estimates around 78 million to train, and Google's Gemini is 191 million. So no startup is going to be able to afford this, especially not this launching right away. So you actually have to do some kind of transfer learning to get any product off the ground. Okay, and then the model selection. Extract feature maps and object labels from photos, which usually involves some kind of CNN architecture. If you go look up, do the research on the model, excuse me, it's actually a very dynamic, evolving field. There's a lot of innovation happening all the time. So there's always new models coming out, new research papers coming out, which is on one level very exciting because you can get better and better quality. On the other hand, it also means that you will very likely have to redo your algorithm and your work within a year or two, because there's just something so much better that has come out. So you have to also budget for that. And if anybody's interested, I can definitely share these links. We can put them in the chat later on. For clustering, there's a whole series of work being done that has been done for image clustering, and then you even have the GitHub repositories for them. Object detection on Hugging Face has a whole list of models that are available for object detection. You can use them to tag your photos with the different objects that are in there. And the third problem that we wanted to tackle, identifying those orphans, like that picture of the cat food that I no longer need, there's no clear way to do so right now. And this would be a very interesting problem if we were actually able to solve it, because that would be a major jump, a major leap in our AI technology. Yeah, it would we would have gone a long way forward in actual intelligence for the machine if we could actually identify those orphans in a really good way. Yeah. Let me stop. Any questions?
Maybe I'll ask a couple questions that I thought might be interesting for you to go over. If you go to the previous slide for a second, sorry, the one before actually. There was a slide, maybe it's actually one before. So sorry, keep going back. I'll tell you which one it is. There you go. So here you talked about look for photos that don't have any interesting objects in them. Is it possible to systematically solve this in a meaningful way?
That's a really good question. I think you definitely need to have this be tied in with the user feedback. So you can have a way for, like, you can, when you identify objects in the photo, you can essentially tag, when you present them to the user, look, we think these are junk, but these are the objects that are in the photos. This set of photos has these objects in there. And the user can provide that feedback to have a mechanism to provide the feedback. Say, if the object is a person, don't delete that photo. Or if the object is like an animal, don't delete the photo. If the object is a vase, don't delete that photo. So in order to be able to know which objects are interesting or not, we definitely have to have a dynamic solution that allows the user to actually tell us what is going to be interesting for them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other part that I was thinking is that sometimes the user might want an interesting object in the picture, sometimes they don't. Like, for example, if you're taking a picture in a park, in one case, maybe you do want flowers to be in the picture, in the other case, you don't. So this can become a pretty complex problem to solve from an ML perspective.
No doubt it is. And so this definitely means we would have to take a lot of care in selecting the photos that have clear objects in them, to mark them for as not useful for deletion, and maybe move very slowly forward on that in that specific area. Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. All right. Thank you.
So let me move forward here. Okay. So yeah, we covered the model selection. But at this point, I'm going to need to be going into a deep dive with my data scientists, my machine learning engineers, and we're going to review what's my CTO really, and what do you think is the best model to use? How quickly can we get it up and running? How much is it going to cost? We'd have all those numbers ready, and that plan would have to be laid out. So the user journey. So this is how we would imagine the user journey. We're starting to move now more into the business end of things. The user installs the apps and gives permission to read, write, and delete for your photo gallery. The app runs in the background, tagging and classifying your photos. Photos to be deleted are placed in special folders tagged by object categories. So the user knows, okay, these photos are junk, but they have these objects in them. User can review the photos before they're deleted. User can set rules to enhance the accuracy. As I mentioned, don't delete the photos with people objects in them. For example, like it doesn't look like it's a useful photo, but it's got a human being in it. So keep it, because human beings always interesting even in the future. And user can set rules to auto delete the selected photos. So you don't actually have to do any manual review yourself. The photos will go to the deleted folder. They'll remain there for the basic 30 days. And then they'll be filtered out, just like your spam is filtered out in email. Yeah, just exactly like your spam is filtered out in email. It goes to your spam folder after 30 days, it's removed out. So also your photos, same thing could happen with your photos. So just to the app look and feel, how we would imagine this, just to go in with the theme of the minimalist approach to life. So a minimalist design. that you can choose your destruction mode. You want to do auto delete. You want to do a manual review. We want it to be very simple to use, a simple UI that allows you don't have to think too much about it. It's very easy to understand, very intuitive. You can review your tagged photos. You can review the recently deleted. You can check your statistics and you then adjust your settings. And the statistics, we want to really show the user how much value they've got. So month over month, how many photos were deleted, how much storage space they saved. And if we can really quantify it, if we really start getting good traction, we will show you how much you're helping the environment because you saved on storage, you saved on your digital footprint. So this will definitely be something that would be valuable for those who want to be more conscious of these things. So that's how we would imagine the app look and feel. And I'm really diving into a little more the business end of things, which we do have to think of as product managers. Our company name, junkremoval.ai, though this probably we might want to iterate and test this out a little bit. The slogan is Marie Kondoing your digital life since 2024. If people are not familiar with Marie Kondo, she's the tidying expert who wrote the fun book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. She had even so much that there was a Netflix series that was dedicated to her, where she would go into people's lives and people's homes and help them really clear out their clutter. She became very famous. So this is actually one angle that is very, very useful angle for marketing. Of course, we would have to get Marie Kondo's permission to use her name. Of course, we have to sign her up as a partner. And the app name, the Photo Destroyer, and a slogan, the world's first content destruction app, which is kind of like a nice little playful, but also a different angle to the to promotion than most apps typically use. So it could really stand out. Who benefits from such an app? Excuse me. On one level, pretty much every smartphone user who takes photos. So just about every smartphone user in the world, really. All you have to do is download the app, set it and forget it, enjoy clutter-free photo browsing and searching, keep your storage footprint small, save the earth. If we can filter your photos out before they're backed up to cloud storage, then you can even just back up the only important ones to cloud storage. The rest will all get just auto-deleted. So you're tackling things at that early stage right away. And the initial target audience, see two sets of people with different motivations. The set one is just maybe people who are taking a lot of photos and are just running into issues with their storage and management, but they're actually very keen to continue to take photos and use their phone a lot. Think travelers, new parents, influencers of various kinds, fashion, food, pet owners also tend to take a lot of photographs. These folks are, like I said, they want to really keep using their phone a lot. And the second set is really the minimalist community, those like the Marie Kondo communities for help with online addiction, people who want to reduce the amount of time and effort that they're giving to their digital life and want to sort of free themselves from that continuous checking of the phone, the continuous management of their digital, continuous entering the digital space all the time, every day. So these are the two different segments that could be interesting target audiences. And just to quickly go over the launch and something might be a useful launch and monetization strategy, reach the target audience via social media campaigns, forums, SEM, paid promotions via influencers in the different categories, find people who will be willing to try the app as marketing campaigns. If they're finding it useful, share it with their followers. In-app referrals can help with a little bit with some virality. And the monetization would be to switch to the freemium model. After you get sufficient adoption, initially, of course, we just want people to try it out. Cap the usage for the free tier, like how much we will allow, how much we will delete the photos for you, how many photos per month. And also offer paid tiers of photo recovery time post-deletion. So we're going to store your photos for 30 days, keep your photos for 30 days before we remove them. If you want, we can keep it for a longer time, but for that, you would have to pay. Excuse me. So this is the launch and monetization strategy. And of course, we have to talk about metrics. How will we measure our success? Monthly active users, where we see that, we want to see how many people are keeping the app running and that app is actually doing the work. This would definitely be a North Star to start. The app is running, photos auto-deleted or selected for manual review. And then we also want to keep track of percentage of photos deleted out of the total percent photos scanned. How good is our app doing in the actual work? That the actual how good is it at identifying those photos that are junk? The average numbers of photos deleted per user per month, the scrolling time saved per user per month. So these are the metrics that we're going to be going after when we launch. And some potential challenges. Again, any questions? Anything come in, Bichan?
I can see a few people just joined a few minutes ago, but I wanted to ask you one more question that I think the
Sure.
audience is going to find helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to answer it after you finish the presentation, but it'd be great
Sure.
if you kind of go back to the slide where you talked about the two models that you've selected. Maybe you can kind of talk about the criteria you guys had in mind when you picked the models, because there are a lot of different models, for example, on Hugging Face. Like, how did you decide which particular model is the right model for you guys?
Okay, let's come back to that when once we're done.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so the potential challenges for this product, we're going to see some resistance from users, fear that the wrong thing could get deleted. So yeah, as much as users want to clean things up, they're afraid to let them go, and kind of worried that, oh, 10 years from now, I'll regret that this photo was gone. So that's one resistance that could come up that could impact the usage. There's other challenge could be that there's interest in the app, but not enough to pay for it. So this has to be kind of user tested. Like, would people be willing to pay money to use something like this? Or if they're not, then what are the other monetization strategies? Is the technology going to be strong enough? Is the recall and precision strong enough to be able to work, to add enough value? This has to be proven. If the user preferences change for photo retention, our concept could change from deleting the photos to something else. This is not bad per se, but it's definitely it could be a pivot point. But there's definitely something that could happen that would require a different energy, different approach. Price the market can bear is not enough. If users are willing to pay, versus the cost of actually doing the model and building the models and of transfer learning the models and maintaining the models and keeping them up to date, the math may not add up there. And pushback from cloud providers if app gets traction. If we are really able to make a dent in people's cloud storage, then Google Drive is going to notice, the Google Drive team, wait a minute, our users aren't storing their photos here anymore. Or if we are using the Google Drive API to tag the photos that to be deleted, they may want to shut us down. Hey, you're impacting our business model. So that's definitely something that if we get big, people will take a look and a lot of people will not be happy. So there's something to be prepared and aware of. And so now a little bit, this is more the marketing side about how we can present it. This is the picture. This is actually Marie Kondo. No, we don't have her permission, but this would be a great partner for something like this. And that was her motto. If it doesn't spark joy, get rid of it in this process of tidying up your life. So of course, once we're done with photos, we can go to cloud photo storage, email, document storage, social media postings. Your entire digital life can be essentially monitored and cleaned up by this assistant. And that leads us to what is the longer term vision, which I think is kind of the holy grail of personalized AI, really like your digital executive assistant knows you really, really well, cleans up after you 24/7. So you always look like an angel online, can screen your digital input for what truly deserves your attention, can organize your digital day for peak flow experience. It's kind of like having like you're the CEO of your own life and you have this executive assistant who's guiding you, like the president has somebody who's presenting them. Here, Mr. President, here's your day's program. And I know I also here just use Mr. Wolf. This is the from the cult film Pulp Fiction. I don't have Harvey Keitel or Quentin Tarantino's permission to use. We would have to go make a partnership possibly with them. But just as an example of the kind of marketing or the approach, most personal assistants, when we talk about Siri, Alexa, they're very like soft and gentle and always trying to agreeing with you and giving you more and more and more. Search for this, buy me this. the approach is kind of almost like it's different. It's somebody who's not pushing more things in front of you, but making sure that what comes in front of you is really important. And that's a totally different persona for a digital assistant. I think there might be an interesting niche for that. So that's definitely something that would be fun to explore and interesting to explore as a brand. So the next steps for a project like this, my lessons, having spent the last 2 years working with some VC firms to help incubate their startups, you absolutely have to find a CTO. It's very easy to forget that we're building a technical tool. I ran into this at one of the startups. Especially if your CEO is not technical, they're coming from the business side. It's easy to think of this as just numbers. Okay, how many resources? How many engineers do we need? We can just add numbers for it, get contractors to do the work. If you don't have a CTO who's going to take ownership of the technology, you're going to have a really hard time making it work. And if it doesn't work, as a PM, this is just a presentation. If it doesn't work, it's no use. If it doesn't deliver at the quality that is necessary. So you absolutely must have somebody who owns the technology, who's vested, who has the sufficient skills. Want to build a prototype that, in my experience, also in pitching to VCs, helping people pitch to VCs, a prototype is so much helpful rather than just a deck. If you have a prototype, something that can show your value prop, your IP, you're in so much better place to get any kind of funding. To build a prototype, prove that we have the tech chops to make it work. If you can seed fund the building process, that's great. If somebody's willing to put up the money for it. Conquer a small niche, like for example, this minimalist community, you go out the Marie Kondo community, get some power users who are finding this immensely useful, so it can be promoted. You can use them as your help with the marketing. And once you conquer the niche, you can expand out to different other verticals. So this would be an approach to move forward with a project like this. And about me, yeah, just now my team. Let me introduce the team. Many years of product management experience. I've built early PayPal, Rakuten, with Accountero, a new startup that I was just finished consulting with. So software engineer by training. I'm also passionate about a lot of things, but also very much passionate about understanding the impact of machines on humans. I'm looking for my next role. So please feel to reach out if should you have openings that you think could be a good fit. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's really easy to remember, Subuddh P. And also reach out if you need data engineers, because I know some good teams of folks who can take up projects. So that's me, and this is the rest of the team. Amrita Nimbalkar, she's at BNP Paribas, and Anuj is doing product at Walmart. Yeah, if you want to get in touch with any of them, you feel free to reach out to me and Bijan. That's the project. That was the ideation. Any more questions?
Thank you so much. We got a couple questions that are posted, so maybe I'll kind of read from them. I think one is more around the problem statement. I think you briefly touched on this. So the question that's posted is, storage is getting cheaper. Like you said, 1 terabyte of cloud storage is only $20 a year, which is pretty cheap. Do you see that, preventing adoption of your technology?
It is a consideration. So we are solving two problems here. One is, of course, the price of the storage. The other is to manage the things that are in my storage and to be able to effectively use them and access them. The searches that the Google, Amazon provide are not that great. And especially if it's the storage on my phone, the camera roll on my phone. I think the thing to consider is that it looks small when you look at it just as a monthly number, but when you recognize that you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, at that point, it doesn't feel so small. It doesn't feel so like, oh my God, oh, who cares about this, right? But yes, it is a concern. So this will appeal to people who, that's why the minimalism and the whole idea of it's as much a personal aesthetic as it is a utility, that I want to keep my digital footprint small, not only just for my own peace of mind, really. Like the same reason I could have 10 storage spaces in which I keep everything together. I hoard all the things that I have in my life. but I clear them out and I get rid of them because I want to keep my headspace free. So there's a certain aesthetic component to this also, that yes, I can afford the storage, but why should I pay for it? And I'd much rather just be without the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I would also add that potentially the problem statement that you're solving is that as a user, I want to have easy access to my most interesting pictures. And
Yes.
that's always not easy, especially when you have to take so many different pictures. That for that one problem, like I would spend a lot of money, like you mentioned. When you take so many pictures, like what you showed in slide 9, chances are people don't go back and do not look at the pictures very often because it kind of significantly reduced that incremental value of the picture. So thank you so much for sharing that. I can see Mikhail has raised their hand. So Mikhail, please go ahead and share your thoughts. Did I pronounce it
Thank
right?
you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I was thinking with these high quality standards you have set, like accuracy, etc., and the models you have picked, that I would assume they would be quite expensive to build and train. How would you validate your value hypothesis? Do you have a specific idea before spending maybe hundreds of thousands of euros or dollars or millions maybe? So how would you validate exactly that enough people will come to you to have the product market fit?
That's a great question. I mean, a little bit the chicken and egg question, right? If we should we build this and should we spend the money to build this, but we can't know it until we've actually spent the money and had people try to use it and tell us whether it's useful or not. So a potential approach could be to start with something less, a little, maybe just tackle one of the problems that we are looking at, like say maybe just go with clustering, go with a more simpler algorithm that doesn't have that high level of recall, even the precision, and test it out as just build even a lesser version of the MVP where you don't actually even delete the photos, you just tag them and do some design sprints, do some user testing, so that you can you get enough feedback from people so that you have some more of an indicator whether this is worth doing or not. So there are some ways in which you can reduce the cost as well as the time to get that design sprint run and build that sort of even a less than MVP, but that still actually demonstrates what the app is doing. So then you can get some feedback and enough so that you can say, okay, let's actually build this out in a little more strength. Yeah, that would be the best approach. Sir, you could do more surveys, but until people actually see it in their hands and it actually happens in your, so you can actually see what it's doing. That's the only real way to get the best feedback. You could also really try to do it like as has happened with some startups that I know that have managed to cross this hurdle. You can go to friends and family, like to use an extended network, just people who are willing to volunteer and try it out. So which could reduce some of the cost, but you still have to build something. Yes, so there is some initial investment you have to put in, otherwise to find out for sure. Yes.
I would also add that couple things. One, you can always start with one particular user group or use case and make sure that your initial model does pretty well for that particular type of images, whether it's like images of nature or something else. You train a model and you see how the accuracy or recall or precision or anything that you care about is doing, and you track that. And you slowly kind of expand to other use cases. That's one way for you to manage costs. And you can also probably build some sort of a UI element that makes it easier for you to collect feedback from users at a larger scale, right? Maybe there's a section that makes it easier for people to kind of move pictures from into the original one, or is like a kind of a one click way of moving pictures from one site to the other. right? So there are some things that you can do over time to significantly improve the basically precision or recall. And some of those things, we can even see this happening today at ChatGPT, right? Like you got the thumbs up, thumbs down, or sometimes they show you two different results. They allow you to kind of quickly give feedback, and they would be using that human feedback to improve the accuracy of their model. So then there's another question that is posted. I think somebody asked, how do you measure the recall? I guess we just talked about that briefly, right? Do you see there's anything else that needs to be said, or should we go to the next question?
Well, just to call out that that's actually a really good question. It's actually difficult, right? Because there's a somewhat gray area to say what's really deletable or not. The only way we know is if we pulled in items that were not to that we said we should delete, and the user said don't delete this, then we know, okay, that we've crossed the boundary. But as long as everything's being deleted and there's no objection, we can't know for sure what was left behind, how much of that could not be deleted. So it's difficult. Yes, it's a very difficult. We have to make some estimates and run with them, but it is a very difficult. It's a question, and something we could get more accurate at with time and more usage. Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so another question that was asked was around how would you estimate? I think you talked about how do you estimate the time for this? I think you talked about it. Sometimes you just have to release it, potentially do some like high level search on market research on what the potential penetration rate is. You just have to release it, see what sort of traction you get. Maybe we'll talk about the next question, which is what do you think about users being concerned from a security perspective, from a privacy perspective? Do you see that as a major issue or not?
For the first photo, the photo destroyer itself, if that's simply running on your phone, not so much, because nothing is going to the cloud, right? We are operating with your gallery on your phone, so we're not actually going to need to store anything in the cloud, and can have a very clear privacy policy that we don't ever disclose anything to anybody and stuff like that. You do have to run the photos through your ML to do the classification. I think though, given that initially the privacy will not be such an issue, once we get into actually working with the cloud, provide the storage on the cloud itself, privacy does become a greater issue if it's photos, especially photos. So you need to have very good guardrails around it. And a very clear privacy policy that's very clearly conveyed to the user that, look, we don't do anything with your photos and everything is secure. Definitely a lot of hand-holding, a lot of good messaging, a lot of good marketing absolutely will be vitally necessary.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah. And like you said before, this could be a potential real concern, but as long as you have some sort of a guardrail, then you're targeting to the needs of those that are optimizing for convenience rather than privacy at the end of the day. We do usually give access to third-party applications to be able to access our photos, for example, on Slack, Facebook, and all these other apps that are running on our phones. So yes, yeah, that's a totally valid point. And hopefully probably our phone will eventually get to a point where everything could be run locally. And in that case, then you are really dealing with a fairly secure way of providing this cleaning service. That makes sense?
Yes, and the branding is going to be key then, right? People have to trust. And that's why the partnerships, like having these public faces that people trust is actually would be very helpful. That's why I selected someone like Marie Kondo. It's like a very family-friendly public face that's very trusted. Yes.
That makes sense. Okay, perfect. Are there any other questions? Just wanted to kind of see if anybody else has any other questions. Otherwise, I wanted to thank you so much for coming in today, Subbudh, for presenting the product idea that you guys worked on during the cohort 5 of our AI Product Manager Learning Program. Anybody else who's interested in joining our next cohort, cohort number 6, that's starting in the second week of May, please feel free to go to our AIPM cohort page and sign up to our program, apply. We're currently taking applications and usually get back to people within a day or two. So here's the link to the cohort. I'm going to quickly include it on Zoom, and people that are on LinkedIn, they can already see that link. So apply. We would love to have more people come in and join us. And thank you so much. Maybe I'm curious to know, Subbudh, if there's anything you want to share about your experience with the cohort. What was it like? What did you find out? What did you think of it?
Yeah, so my experience with the cohort was overwhelmingly positive. I wasn't sure what I was getting into, but I mean, look, this is what we did in 4 weeks. I mean, for me, this is like, wow. In 4 weeks class, we came up with all of this much research, this much understanding, all of it in 4 weeks. That's pretty amazing. And so firstly, how thorough the course is, how we go, you just dive in and really all the deep concepts from the technical side to all of the PM work that you have to do, all of it is covered thoroughly. The technical side especially, it's very easy to kind of gloss over it, but this ML is so technical, you absolutely have to know it on some level. The instructors are very supportive. Kai is a fantastic instructor. Bijan is always available for help. He wants to help you push your career forward, learn as much as possible. Just become a great AI PM. And that's I 2 hearty thumbs up. Yes.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for powering through all the learning material. I know it's a lot. Like I said before, good news is you guys will have access to all the learning material after the graduation and after receiving your certificates. And over the next 3 years, any new learning material that we develop, which we are always, because the space is evolving so quickly, you guys will have access to it. So thank you so much again for trusting us and joining our 5th cohort on AI product management. We're going to have the next one starting in about 1 month. So we're very excited for that. And next week, we're going to have another amazing session. It's going to be a workshop. We're very, very excited. It's going to be a very hands-on workshop. We're going to actually build something together. So the invites will go out pretty soon. I think everything is going to get sent out on Monday. I highly recommend everybody to attend next Saturday, and we'll see you guys next week again. Thank you so much, Subbudh, for coming, and we'll see you around.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for giving me the chance to present. And thanks, everybody, for joining. I hope this was useful. I hope this inspires you to ideate on your own products and bring them to fruition, bring them to market. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The AI course at Product Management Exercises has been wonderful for my career. It set a great foundation to fully understand AI and the AI space that I can directly implement into my day-to-day work to really make an impact in what I'm working on for my users and for my career moving forward. So I highly recommend this to anyone that's looking for the foundation they need to be successful in the AI space.